The United States has made it clear, it wants to mine the moon. With NASA's Artemis program and increasing private sector involvement, lunar resource extraction is no longer science fiction. But as America and other nations set their sights on the moon's minerals, ice, and regolith, one crucial question emerges: what happens to space laws? The legal framework governing space activity was established during the Cold War era. The cornerstone of space law is the 1967 Outer Space Treaty. Signed by more than 110 countries, including the United States and Russia, it lays out fundamental principles for outer space exploration. Most notably, it declares that outer space, including the moon, is not subject to national appropriation. No country can claim sovereignty over any part of a celestial body. The treaty emphasizes that exploration and use must benefit all humankind. It prohibits weapons of mass destruction in orbit and encourages international cooperation. However, the treaty leaves many gray areas, especially regarding commercial activity and resource ownership. As technology advances, countries are reinterpreting the treaty's vague language to fit modern ambitions. In 2015, the United States passed the Commercial Space Launch Competitiveness Act. This law allows U.S. citizens and companies to own resources they extract from space. It does not claim territory but assumes that ownership of mined material is compatible with the Outer Space Treaty. Other countries have followed suit. Luxembourg, the United Arab Emirates, and Japan have passed similar laws to attract space mining ventures. This patchwork of national legislation raises questions about equity, governance, and enforcement. What happens when multiple countries or companies target the same lunar crater? How are disputes resolved in the absence of an interplanetary legal system? And who ensures environmental sustainability on the moon? The moon is not just a barren rock. It contains water ice at its poles, a vital resource for drinking water, fuel production, and life support. It also holds rare earth elements and metals like titanium and aluminum. These materials could jumpstart off-world industry. But unregulated extraction could create irreversible damage to scientific sites and lunar heritage. The Apollo landing zones, for example, are irreplaceable cultural landmarks. Once disturbed, they cannot be restored. The lunar surface also contains geological records that could help us understand the history of the solar system. Mining operations, if not carefully managed, could erase this invaluable scientific data. Some scholars argue that the moon should be treated like a global commons, similar to the high seas or Antarctica. The 1979 Moon Agreement attempted to establish such a principle. It declared the moon the common heritage of mankind and called for an international regime to govern its resources. But the treaty failed to gain traction. Only a handful of countries signed it, and major space powers like the US, China, and Russia rejected it. They argued that the agreement placed too many restrictions on commercial development. In recent years, the US has introduced the Artemis Accords. This set of bilateral agreements outlines principles for lunar exploration, including peaceful use, transparency, and coordination of activities. It allows for the creation of safety zones to avoid interference. While the accords promote cooperation, they are not legally binding under international law. They reflect a US-led vision for how space should be governed. Critics argue that this approach sidelines the United Nations and risks excluding non-signatory nations. Mining operations, if not carefully managed, could erase this invaluable scientific data. Without universal agreements, a legal vacuum looms over lunar activity. We may see a future where lunar real estate becomes a geopolitical battleground. Nations and corporations could stake claims through presence and infrastructure, challenging the spirit of international treaties. To prevent conflict, experts are calling for updated global rules. An international lunar governance framework could clarify rights, responsibilities, and environmental protections. It could establish protocols for scientific cooperation, safety zone enforcement, and resource sharing mechanisms. Such a system might be modeled after Antarctic governance, where multiple countries operate under a cooperative framework despite differing national interests. Enforcement would be challenging but not impossible. Earth-based legal bodies, multilateral treaties, and international arbitration panels could play a role. Satellites and lunar orbiters could monitor compliance in near real time. Smart contracts and blockchain could be used to log activity and ensure transparency. There could be registries of lunar activity accessible by all signatories. Inspections might be carried out via robotic probes sent by neutral parties. Ultimately, the question is whether humanity will repeat the mistakes of terrestrial colonization or forge a new path in space. Will the moon become a contested frontier driven by profit and power? Or can we create a fair, sustainable framework that honors scientific, ethical, and environmental values? The decisions made today will shape the lunar future for generations to come. The US wants to mine the moon, but what happens to space laws will determine whether that journey uplifts all of humanity or benefits just a few. The urgency is growing. With missions planned in the next few years, legal systems must evolve in tandem with technological progress. International dialogue, transparent cooperation, and inclusive frameworks are no longer optional, they're essential. Because the moon may be silent, but the actions we take there will echo for centuries.